Hello beautiful people, welcome back. So in one of the previous videos we mentioned about garnishment and the fact that garnishment can be enforced in many different ways. And one of the ways garnishment is enforced is through the services provided by the United States Marshal. Regardless of what type of garnishment you're doing, on all the preliminary steps you're going to take, if the other party that's been garnished is wise, they will try to settle the matter privately, outside of the formal court system. Here comes the part where a lot of people have heard, where they say, you're a private man, do things privately. Do it privately, settle privately. I don't think it has occurred to a lot of people that there's already a system that's created for that. Many people have heard of the word before called arbitration, but it's still not quite one with them and how they can function with it. On YouTube, we went over the basic introduction of arbitration, which is also known as mediation. The video name is Suit 101, Mediation, Positive and Negative Aspects, Proper Use of Notary, Protest and Settlement. And the summary of it basically is there are mediums already set up on a state and federal level for arbitration or mediation. And the caveats involved in that has been went over in that video as an introduction as to whether you actually want to use arbitration, aka mediation, aka alternative dispute resolution, or not. And when you do decide to go into mediation or arbitration, there are many things you need to put into consideration because it's all private and there's no judicial proceeding involved. So if you're going to be coming in private, that means your privacy game must be strong. The one acting as a mediator can be chosen by either of the parties so long as the other party consents to it. And two, your contract game must be strong. All the preliminary things like functioning through trust, property and asset right. See, property and asset right is important because one of the things that will compel them to settle with you quick through arbitration or mediation, if you choose to go that route, it's because there is in fact a privacy interest in a property that's in dispute that someone else is using that they ought not to be used. They use the power of the state and the power of the people of so-and-so versus so-and-so. That's another caveat to mediation or arbitration that people don't know about. If you do not abide by the settlement agreement through arbitration and mediation, which is don't talk about it, don't say anything about it, it's synonymous to it not existence. They will sue you using the power of the people as if incompetence exists in the first place. So now you're trying to do something else in the private and you're still incompetent about it nonetheless. How's that going to benefit you or make any difference compared to public courts? At least in the public courts, you can still invoke the Constitution and hold someone by the balls and get them to come to your side and do things rather than arbitrarily doing things in the private, which is arbitration. Which, if the other party is smart, based on how arbitration and mediation, the other party that you're holding liable, based on how the intricacies of arbitration and mediation works, it would always benefit them actually, compared to if you were to take it the public route. But if you want to take it the quote private route, here it is. So watch this video, listen to the intricacies, because this gives you the basic introduction of how in different states there are different setups, whereas in different states they already have arbitration centers where you can come in to dispute things privately, to settle disputes privately, and they either appoint an arbitrator who really doesn't have any credential, basically in summary, or you can choose one so long as the other party agrees to it. And again, if you're doing, and in some states, the Arbitration Act, but there's another one on the federal level that applies to both state and federal level. And here is what it constitutes in summary. Federal Arbitration Act. The United States Arbitration Act, enacted February 12, 1925, codified in 9 U.S.C. Chapter 1, more commonly referred to as the Federal Arbitration Act, or FAA, is an act of Congress that provides for judicial facilitation of private dispute resolution. On the state level, they call it ADR, alternative dispute resolution. Same thing, private dispute resolution through arbitration. It applies in both state and federal court and was held in Southland Court versus Keeton. It applies in all contracts, meaning you have to have a contract. Just because in order for you to use one of the ways through the U.S. Marshal to settle, to compel them to perform, you have to come. They will do some shit like that. I'm telling you, they will do stuff like that. What if they say for instance, it's for a mortgage, right? What if they say, well, it's like saying you want to run faster. You want to go out there and run a 5 mile, an average of 5 minutes, 30 seconds, and you don't want to feel pain. In order for you to be able to get faster and have an endurance, you will have to use and expedite strength in your body and feel pain so that you can expand your auric field to become stronger, to be able to run faster and longer. In order for you to be able to make money in business, you have to provide service of what people need. You can't just sit there and say, okay, I'm in this business now, money come to me. You can't say, all right, there's a fire pit, all right, give me heat. But you haven't toiled and put in the wood and then light the wood on fire to get heat. That's what people are trying to do when they run into arbitration or mediation. There are so many more preliminary things people need to comprehend before they even start entertaining something simple as notary protests, which that in and of itself has so much more intricacies involved. Although when you get it at the end, it becomes simplified and becomes a straight shot. But if you haven't really gone through the toil of educating yourself and really getting the intricacies and shedding your mind of the misinformation, you're just dabbling around in something that either will get you in trouble, either will get you in a circumstance you would rather not be in, or we're going to stop demanding payments for 5 years. But after the 5th year, you're going to have to pay everything in full. Otherwise, we're going to take it, we're going to charge you interest, and we're going to garnish your stuff. But the language of how they structured it was not very clear and succinct. They used a hell of a lot of legalese. And you go, oh, you know what? I'm not going to pay for 5 years? Okay, cool. But then you realize what was going on and you go, oh shoot, look, let's change this. They're letting you know, prove that it would not be economically practicable to maintain the action individually. Mediation, know the details at least. That is the least you owe yourself. So even while you're trying to do something else on the other side, you still owe yourself education of how it works nonetheless. So don't just throw that word arbitration or mediation out there in a conversation as though it's an end-all meet-all, because it's not. Because remember, in an arbitration or mediation, as it's went over in this video, the arbitrator or the mediator cannot compel performance. The arbitrator or the mediator is just a middleman saying, okay, well, you know what, this man proposed this as a settlement, maybe you should accept it. They cannot compel anyone to perform because they don't have judicial power. So why not just do things right to begin with? And the only reason why you're taking arbitration or mediation to the public to bounce the books is to affirm.
The complete 36-minute video is on the Patreon page. Shout out to my patrons, and thanks to everyone watching YouTube. Take care. Best of luck.